This episode is brought to you by Kia's first three-row, all-electric SUV, the Kia EV9, with available all-wheel drive and seating for up to 7 adults, with 0 to 60 speed that thrills you 1 minute and available lounge seats that unwind you the next. Visit kia.com/EV9 to learn more. Ask your Kia dealer for availability. No system, no matter how advanced, can compensate for all driver error and or driving conditions. Always drive safely.
Welcome to Tech You Should Know with Kim Komando. I'm Mike James. It's the big 4th of July weekend and Independence Day. So we've put together some recent calls from inspiring folks who have struck out on their own to achieve their own financial independence. One guy actually went from, spending time in jail to cleaning up his act and now makes over $600,000 a year. Another guy who, would you believe he was a mechanic who specialized in DeLorean cars and went on to buy the company after they went bankrupt. And as a matter of fact, he's going to be trying to manufacture new DeLorean cars. We're going to talk to him, the baker who, with the outbreak of COVID-19, transformed his bakery into a thriving online business. You're going to love his story. So get ready to be inspired. Those and much more stories coming up on Tech You Should Know with Kim Komando today. And a quick reminder here, this is not the Kim Komando Show. Every week, Kim gives you the very latest tech news, tips, DIYs, and we take your questions on the Kim Komando Show. For that podcast, just go to getkim.com. And right now, you get a free 30-day trial. Again, that's getkim.com. Use promo code Kim to get your free 30-day trial. All right, we're going to get started with a guy that was one time in jail and now making $600K a year as a hacker. Coming up on Tech You Should Know with Kim Komando.
When someone says the word hacker, what comes to mind? Someone hunched over a keyboard, right? Wearing a hoodie, trying to break into a corporation's network or some secret government system. And joining us is a real honest-to-goodness hacker. He was only 19 when he was first arrested back in 2002, and some 30 FBI agents came knocking at his front door. In 2005, he was convicted of breaking into U.S. government and military computers and sentenced to 2.5 years in prison. He was involved with the World of Hell, a hacking group that scoured the web for websites with poor internet security. And joining me today on the Kim Komando Show is hacker Tommy DeVos. And thanks for being on the show, Tommy. Let me ask you a question. What was the biggest thing you ever hacked?
I guess it would be different government agencies, the Jet Propulsion Laboratories at NASA, the U.S. court systems, various state government websites. Had a goal back in 2001 to break into at least one website for every state in the U.S. Broke into corporations like Microsoft, Hotmail, MSN, IBM, Pfizer, the pharmaceutical company, Rolex, tons of them.
So now, do you do this for money? Is it for, at that time, was it for money? Was it for personal achievement or?
Back then it wasn't for money. I was never out for financial gain or to steal people's information or anything like that. I did it simply because they said I couldn't do it. In my eyes, the companies that were Fortune 500 companies or the U.S. government had such large budgets. They should have had secure computer systems, especially being the type of information that could potentially be stored on them. And we like to prove that that wasn't the case. It was actually easier to hack into military and government computers at times than it was to a person down the street from you on their personal computer.
So what kind of stuff did you see?
Nothing really crazy. When we were going in the NASA computers, our goal was always trying to find evidence of aliens, but sadly I never got to find any.
You were sent to prison for how many years?
I did 27 months the first time. And then when I came home, I was banned from computers for a while. And I violated my probation in 2007 because I had a computer in my house. So they sent me back to prison for another year. And then I violated again in October of 2009 for having a computer in my house. And they sent me back for 14 months.
Oh, man. Okay. And now I see one around your shoulder, so I guess it's okay now?
Yes, man. They released my ban from computers on November 3rd, 2010. And since then, I've legally been allowed to use computers again. Prior to that, I wasn't allowed to use computers, cell phones, gaming systems, basically anything that could communicate with people over a network.
So the average person sitting at home, how vulnerable are they?
It all depends on how they use the internet and everything. I mean, the general people don't really have a whole lot to worry about because it's not like you're going to be specifically targeted because of who you are for the average person. Now, you will be vulnerable to people attempting to send you phishing emails and stuff like that to try to compromise your banking information so that they can then try and steal your identity to open up credit in your name to get the money or empty your bank accounts or something like that. Different organizations like Target getting hacked during the Black Friday a couple years ago, you're going to be a target to things like that, but they're not targeting you directly. They're looking to target as many people as they can. When it comes to major retailers and stuff like that getting hacked, you should always remember that everybody in the world knows how important Black Friday is and how much money gets spent for Christmas shopping and everything like that. And if you're planning to do Christmas shopping and stuff, I like to tell people to go and get cash out of a bank, go and buy a prepaid credit card. So that way, if you're going to use it for the Cyber Monday deals online or even in the big retail stores, that you've got that card and the only purpose it's serving is to go through and buy your Christmas presents. And once you spent what you were going to spend, you don't need the card anymore. You can get rid of it. So that way, if it gets compromised from that merchant, they're not going to get anything from you because it's not tied to any real account.
Yeah, that's actually good advice. But another benefit is it keeps you on budget.
Yeah.
So now you have a white hat on, right? You're a white hat hacker. And I understand that you're making over $500,000 a year. Tell us more about that.
That's actually on the low side, I think. My goal for 2019 was to hit $1 million just on the HackerOne platform alone. And I think at this point, I've still got a shot to hit it. I think I'm about $200,000 to $250,000 short.
Well, tell us about the event. What happens?
For this particular event, HackerOne likes to do what they call live hacking events. And it's generally they do about one a month in a different city around the world where they'll invite anywhere from 30 hackers up to 100 or so. And they'll fly them to a location, put us in hotel rooms. Then the next day we'll actually go to wherever the venue is and they'll introduce us to one of their clients that wants us to hack them that day. We'll spend about 7 to 8 hours of actually hacking them. Then they'll close down where we can't submit reports anymore. And they'll go through the reports that had been submitted. They'll pick winners of various different bugs. I mean, not bugs, but various different awards that they'll give out. Like the top award that you can get at any of these events is the MVH, the most valuable hacker. And you get a really cool belt that looks like a WWE championship belt if you win this. And then we'll have a little party afterwards and then relax the next day and go home.
So the most valuable hacker, he or she probably had to find something pretty major, right?
Most of the time, yes. They don't generally base it on how many bugs you found or how much money you made. It's kind of like a total of how impactful your bugs were, meaning how serious they were, and then how helpful you might have been working with other people while you were there and stuff like that. So it's kind of like an award to combine both your attitude and the helpfulness you are with others, as well as your findings for that particular event.
What does your family think of your profession now that you're, on the white hat side?
They love it now just because the transformation from 20 years ago when I started hacking and having my door kicked in by the FBI and various agencies like several times. I think it was 4 or 5 times in total over about a 12-year period, to now being paid for something that I've always loved to do and doing pretty well at it. They tell me a lot that they're proud of me and they are just amazed by the transformation and everything like that. And well, I have a 3-year-old daughter now, and I think she would get really mad at me if I did anything that would even has the chance of taking me away from her forever. So I use her for a lot of my motivation to make sure that I don't ever do anything that's stupid again. I went from being, in my opinion, the most important person in the world to now she's the most important person in the world.
Well, Tommy, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And I'm so pleased that you could turn your life around and then use your hacking powers for good.
Hey, don't forget, if you've got a question about something digital, you can get Kim's unbiased advice. And it's advice that you can trust. America's Digital Pro, Kim Komando, and our nationally syndicated radio show. You just go to komando.com and in the upper right-hand corner, click on the Be a Caller button. We're going to ask you your name and for a couple of details about your question. We'll set up a time where you can be on the show, ask your question on the show. It is fun. You can call your friends and let them know that you're going to be on the show. And that's, again, the Be a Caller button in the upper right at komando.com. Hey, just ahead on Tech You Should Know, Stefan Wynn. He's the guy who was a specialist mechanic for DeLorean cars and eventually went on to buy the company, and actually he's planning on manufacturing DeLoreans soon. We'll hear his story in just a bit. And later on, how to make money on Amazon Turk. Well, what is Amazon Turk? And what about our flea market flippers? We're going to hear from them and their passion to turn stuff you can find on a lot of sites into cold hard cash.
The Back to the Future movie trilogy helped establish the DMC DeLorean as an 80s icon. And our next guest is one of the only people in the country who still repairs and maintains DeLoreans. And now he wants to bring the icon back and into the future. And joining me now is Stephen Wynn, CEO of the DeLorean Motor Company. Stephen, thanks for joining us. And boy, what is that, your factory behind you?
This is actually just our workshop where we do the service and restorations. We have a whole other part of the facility that will actually set up for the assembly line.
And so how did you get involved in the DeLoreans?
I'm an English car mechanic that specialized in English and French cars, and DeLorean is essentially an English and French car. So when I came to America, it seemed like the logical path to follow.
But then, so you started repairing them, and now you own the company?
Yes, started repairing them, in the 80s, right after the company went out of business, and had the opportunity along the way to buy all of the remaining inventory after the original DeLorean went bankrupt. And then once we had all that inventory, it was, okay, now what are we going to do with all that stuff? So as well as service and repairing the cars, then we started looking at starting to make the cars, but unfortunately, you can't just go making an old car. Yet they have to conform to the regulations, and a 1980s car doesn't conform to the current regulations. So we were able to get together with SEMA and a bunch of the other people who work with replica cars, and we got the law changed, or got President Obama to sign it in December of 2015 that allowed for replicas to be made. And at that time, NHTSA was given 12 months to come up with the final guidelines. And unfortunately, here we are 5 years down the road, and we're still waiting for those final guidelines.
And so how many DeLoreans were made in the 80s?
Originally, there was about 9,200 cars made.
Can I buy a new DeLorean from you?
You can't at present, no, until we go into production, which, again, we're waiting for those final guidelines, which we're hoping to receive by the end of this year. Then once that happens, then we'll start again with the engineering process of what it's going to take to put the car together. And all things being equal, about this time next year will probably be about the best case scenario for us to start being able to deliver new cars.
So let's say I wanted to make a pre-order on a brand new DeLorean. What would that car look like?
It's going to look exactly like the original car. You know, the replica program says that it has to be to match the original, which we really don't want to mess with the original car because it's such an iconic design, and that's what our brand is all about for now.
So what were some quirky things about the DeLorean? I mean, aside from the gull-wing doors.
Well, the obvious one is the gull-wing doors, but also the fact that it has stainless steel body panels that were not painted. And the way the car is also constructed, it has a chassis, a fiberglass underbody, and then the stainless skins attached to it. So that makes it kind of unique to what you see around today, because most cars today are a unibody construction where the body and chassis are all as one.
Does that make the car heavy? How much does the car weigh?
No, they weigh about 2,800 pounds, which by today's standards is actually quite light. And what you asked there is a very common perception that people have. They think that, that it's 100% stainless, so it's going to be super heavy. But because it's got a fiberglass underbody, that actually helps reduce the weight.
And so what about the cassette player?
Yes. So the original specification was an AM/FM cassette with 4 speakers. Unfortunately, that's not going to make it with the next go-around.
You're going to have like Android Play or Apple CarPlay, right?
Oh yeah. Obviously, our customer base is very tech savvy, so we would have to be up to date with all of the current trends as far as in-car entertainment and features inside the car for sure.
So when you're driving around Houston in a DeLorean, do you get a lot of looks?
Oh, you cannot believe it. It's insane. And it's been this way for, I've been driving DeLoreans now for 38 years. And I'd say the car is more recognizable today than what it was when it was new.
So when we look at the iconic version of the DeLorean, what can you add to it as a replica?
Exterior-wise, we're pretty well locked in. It'll have some things like the wheels will be larger because we need to put bigger brakes on the car, and that's going to be a mechanical improvement. But the outside of the car, I'm very, very happy with it, and it's so instantly, iconically recognizable that I don't really want to change it. Plus the fact that I'm sitting on all of this inventory of body panels that we have to make the car. So at this stage, it doesn't pay to tool up to make a different car when we have this inventory that we can use for the assembly.
Well, I think it was in 2019, I was at the Barrett-Jackson car auction in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I saw a DeLorean go over the block. 2 owners, I think it had 5,700 miles, and it sold for roughly $38,000 US dollars. How does that compare to, say, a year from now when you're going to be selling a DeLorean?
Probably that car that you seen a couple of years ago today is probably a $50,000 to $60,000 car.
Wow!
And DeLoreans are just going up in value, which is great. It really helps the brand. But with the new car, we haven't quite finished the bill of materials, so we don't really have an idea of what it's going to be. But it's going to be, probably in the mid to low 150s, just because that's what it takes to put a car together these days.
Now, one last question. Will it have any flux capacitors?
No. We'll leave all the movie prop stuff for the movies, and we'll keep this as the real deal.
That's good. Hey, Stephen, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure having you here on the Kim Komando Show. We're looking forward to taking our own time machine for a spin when production is finally finished. One of the great things about the internet is that it is an equalizer in so many ways. Like, for example, think about iTunes. If iTunes was not developed, or Google Play, we wouldn't have all these people that are making millions of dollars with all these various apps out there. And at last count, I heard there were over 1.3 million apps in the Apple App Store. Okay, now think about smart speakers. You have Google Home and you have Amazon's Alexa. Well, of course, you have various commands that you can use with your smart speaker, but what about those skills? Who's developing those skills, and are they making money? And when I read about Nick Schwab, I thought for sure we had to have him here on the Kim Komando Show. Hi there, Nick. Welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Hi, Kim. Thanks for having me.
So now you are a third-party developer for the Amazon Alexa. Explain to everyone what that means.
So that basically means that I develop apps for Amazon Alexa on my own time. Amazon doesn't really pay me to make them. I just think of apps that I want to build. I build them, and then if they're successful, I get paid.
And then how do you distribute the app?
So you build it, and then you go through a certification process through Amazon. It's very similar to the iOS App Store process or the Google Play process. And it goes through that. And then once Amazon approves it, it's live to the millions of Alexa customers worldwide.
Which is really amazing when you think about it. How long does that approval process take?
Oh, it definitely varies. I've had it take about 2 hours, and I've also had it take about 4 weeks.
Wow.
So it really just depends on how much content your skill has.
Now, when did you start developing your skills?
I first began developing skills for Alexa in, I believe it was February 2016. And since then, I've published over 54 skills.
Wow, 54 skills. So what's the one skill that you said to yourself, this is going to be a home run, this is going to be one of the best ones ever, and then it was kind of a dud?
I would say that was my second skill. It was called Opening Bell. It allowed people to look up the stock prices for any company, a publicly traded company in the U.S., using the spoken company name. So traditionally, when you look up stock prices, you use a ticker symbol. But when you're using voice, the more natural way is to just speak the full company name. So I made a skill that did that, gave you the stock price. Then, of course, a few months later, Amazon made it a native feature, which is one of those things where you would have thought it would have been a native feature already.
To begin with,
I was happy to see them bring it in.
Let's take it to the other extreme. What's your most successful skill for Alexa?
My most successful is thunderstorm sounds. It gets about 100,000 people every day.
Wow, you're kidding.
Yeah, every day.
100,000 people every single day? And what exactly does it do?
It just plays the sound of a thunderstorm. It's a 1 hour track, and you can loop it so it'll play nonstop until you say stop.
And did you record the thunderstorm?
That one in particular, no, but I do record some of my own sounds.
And so how many developers are now doing Alexa skills?
I don't think there's an official number, but I would say it's definitely the tens of thousands for sure.
Is there a particular secret to building a successful skill, do you think, that you could pass along?
Yeah, I think to build a successful skill, you really just need to keep the experience simple. Make sure you have high quality content and that people can access it in a very quick way. It's definitely a different train of thought than developing an app for a smartphone, where you kind of want it to be pretty. Whereas with voice, it's more utilitarian. Just get the user the content they want as quickly as possible. So
now with all these 54 different Alexa skills, have you been able to say retire?
Maybe not retire, but it's definitely been a bit of financial help. I've been able to do some fun things.
So name one thing that you've been able to do because of the skills getting out there.
I was able to buy my dream car, Tesla Model 3, in red, of course.
Oh, awesome. That's amazing. So what do you think the next wave will be for smart speakers?
Oh, boy. I think we're still in the early days of smart speakers, and we still haven't seen kind of like the angry birds of smart speakers. So I think we're going to see more developers, especially larger businesses, start to develop for these platforms and build some really, really great skills, whether it's games, whether they're utility apps that really take voice to the next level and really entice people to bring these speakers into their homes, into their workplaces, maybe into even their cars.
Now, I probably should have asked you this sooner, but do you have a programming background?
I do. Yeah, I'm a software engineer by heart.
Okay.
I do primarily web development. So building Alexa skills kind of came naturally to me.
Well, I will tell you that I'm sure you've seen the blueprint page, right? For Alexa.
Absolutely.
And folks, if you haven't seen that, that's really amazing. That's where you can create your own Amazon Alexa skills. It's not quite as sophisticated as the stuff that you're doing, Nick. And thank you for joining us, because developing skills now for your smart speakers, I really think it's going to be an up-and-coming profession. That if you have any type of coding background, any type of background in engineering, it's really something that you ought to take a look at. We've got links to that and a whole bunch more Alexa skills and commands, as well as Nick's skills, that you can check out for free over on our website. The official homepage of The Kim Komando Show is, of course, komando.com.
If you love the digital lifestyle and love keeping up with all the breaking tech news and security alerts and data breaches so you can tell your friends and family kind of what's going on and what to watch out for, we've got you covered with the Komando newsletters. They keep you right up to date, and you can get yours at komando.com, which is KOMANDO. And on the top, click on the Get the Newsletter button, And it's a double opt-in, so we'll send you an email to make sure that you want the newsletters, and then you got them. We've got also specialty newsletters about Apple and Android, many, many others, including The Current, which is just what it says. It keeps you up to date on what's going on, and there is no advertising in The Current. It is read it just as you get it. Try it out and see if you like it. We believe you will. It's at komando.com, Komando, and thank you. Up next on Tech You Should Know with Kim Komando, we're going to hear from a guy in L.A. that has his own bakery. And after the COVID thing broke out, he actually went to all online business, and he's actually thriving online. And then we're going to hear from the flea market flippers who turn ordinary things that you can buy at garage sales and estate sales and online at Craigslist, whatever. They turn those into cold, hard cash. We'll hear how they do it coming up on Komando, Tech You Should Know.
In the age of COVID-19, making bread, I read, is a 14,000-year-old craft. And Google Trends has said that during this pandemic, vaccine and unemployment, yes, right up there at the top of the Google Trends. But the number of people who are searching bread hit an all-time high. Okay, and if you think about it, well, why is that? Well, it takes a lot of time and effort and energy, and you got to sit there to make the bread. And so, now that you're home, you got a way to do all that. Well, Aaron Cadell was forced to close both his San Francisco and LA locations. He has this really popular bakery called Mr. Holmes Bakehouse. And in a span of 72 hours, all 60 of his wholesale customers, this is a small business, all 60 of his wholesale customers, an estimated $3 million worth of business, poof, gone. But what I love about Aaron's story that I read is that Aaron is smart. He's like, okay, so what else can I do with my business? So he pivoted his business. He moved very quickly. And now he's aiming to make $100,000 a day. Hi there, Aaron. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Kim. How are you?
Good. So tell us how you changed your business.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, it's all happened so quick. I don't know if it's been a year or if it's been only a month, but...
it feels like a year, doesn't it?
Yeah. Initially, I think we were for sure knowing that the wholesale aspect would go quickly, just as coffee shops started, closing up shop after shelter in place went into effect. And quickly thereafter, we pulled the plug on our own retail spaces. We have a bunch of workers here, including single moms and, other individuals who are counting on this for a day-to-day paycheck and, a stipend to cover their bills or even just, deferring their rent. It doesn't necessarily meet all of their needs. We have single moms who are just begging us for hours, right, as we're kind of going into this situation. So we kind of get in front of the whiteboard as all this stuff's happening. How do we short the market? How do we have an insurance policy against the economy? And, I think what as we looked into our own tool chest, we're we should be able to give people the ability to make bread at home. And so really that's what we did. We popped up an e-commerce site. We've never been in e-commerce before, so we're learning on the fly. We popped that up within, I think we put it up in a single day, and then just sales blew through the roof. We shipped out our kits to 47 states within the first 10 days, which was incredible.
What's inside the kit?
Yeah, so we have a few different kits, but definitely the most exciting, the one that has just gotten the most attention has been our bread starter kit. And so that has everything you need to make your first loaf, as well as all the instructions to maintain your starter. And so, most people I don't think are super accustomed to, acquainted with the idea of a bread starter, but it's a regenerative, organism. Well, a fungus, right?
Right?
There's fungal fermentation and bacterial fermentation. So with bread, that what you were talking about, the past 14,000 years of people doing bread is you have a regenerative starter, which means that you just need to feed it. It's kind of like a dog, right? Or an animal pet that you'll have. And you just keep feeding it with with flour and giving it some water, and it will last you the rest of your life, generations, right? You can make thousands or millions of loaves of bread off of that one starter. And so what that does, I think, going back to COVID-19, it addresses a couple things. Like, one is, people kind of hit survival mode pretty quickly, right? Yes. They went into stores and they didn't see bread on the shelves. And so this kind of hit that first one where people were able to make bread at home without the need for perishable goods. So that's something there. But, as you're also pointing to, is that folks are just home, and that's probably the brutal reality is like, whether you
we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, what are you going to do this weekend? I'm going to go home. I'm going to be home, So,
absolutely.
Tell me about some of the challenge that you had with setting up the e-commerce part of all this.
Oh man. Well, I'll put a positive spin on it. We've hit, I'm sure, every one of the problems. First of all, as far as a shipment gets picked up of 200 boxes and then it just doesn't go into the system on the back end for the shipping service. And so we are filing insurance claims and getting those kits out to people as soon as possible. And I'm sure a lot of it's just like these companies are just overloaded right now.
They're overwhelmed.
Black Friday every day. Yeah. But the other piece is, dealing with customer service, when we kind of have, folks who have never done bread before, they naturally have a number of questions. And so we've been trying to put everything in video form for them and have FAQs on our site. But the cool thing about that is oh my gosh, every time we have a problem, we learn that there's a new technology for it. And we've been implementing those like Gorgias that triggers certain keywords and has a templatized response that enables us to go through there because we have thousands of emails coming through with folks that just want to know how do I take this to the next level and whatever else.
So how many orders are you processing a day?
That's a tricky question, and probably the most frustrating part so far about getting into e-commerce is we will have over the weekend, a $20,000 day. And then the next day will be a $6,000 day. And so we don't, it's hard to plan around that, right? Do we, it's been great that we've been able to keep so much of our staff here, but as we've brought people back on, as demand kind of fluctuates, to maintain our revenue numbers as where they were before, with this new platform, it's just, it's difficult to drive that consistency. And so hopefully we do that through getting on shows like this, right? Or we can, as a small business, just, keep driving the word and, homogenize some of those sales.
Which is amazing, Aaron. After I read your story, I was like, you know what? Here's a guy who has figured it out. I mean, you've got it going on, and I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy that you've done all this. As U.S. unemployment claims soar over 40 million, a lot of people are struggling and just trying to make ends meet. But at the same time, it's amazing. Online shopping and services like Instacart, they're just surging because, let's just face it, people are still afraid to go out to the stores because of COVID-19. And you also have a lot of people like me who've had a lot of time on their hands. I've cleaned out a lot of closets, and I'm finding things that I just don't need anymore, and I've actually started selling them online. So when I ran across a story about a Florida couple who flip for a living, I knew that you'd want to know more about how they do this because they're earning a six-figure income. Rob and Melissa Stevenson are the brains and muscle behind the popular blog and website Flea Market Flipper. And they're joining us here on this podcast to tell us exactly how it happens, the secrets behind it, and also how you can get involved too. So Rob and Melissa, thanks so much for joining us. Let me ask you the first question is, what's the strangest thing that you've ever flipped?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. Thanks for having us, Kim, for sure. The strangest thing we have ever flipped is probably a prosthetic leg that we actually picked up at our local flea market. And then we brought it home. We sold it on eBay. Within a couple hours, we paid $35 for it at the flea market, and then we sold it for $1,000 on eBay.
That's a great profit, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I thought they had to be custom fitted.
Yeah, this one was actually the knee joint is what it was. They have custom fits that actually fit up over the leg itself, but this was the prosthetic knee joint portion of it, and it was titanium. So they make them to where you can interchange fittings from the top and down by the foot. so you can change that stuff out for different things. So when I say leg, it's not just like a prosthetic leg that you would see somebody. It was a physical knee joint, and it was actually electric. You could plug it in. Yeah, you could plug it in. You could charge it and do different things. I didn't have any of the components with it. All I had was the actual knee joint. That was what that was what I purchased at the flea market.
It's so. So do you guys go like to flea markets every weekend? I mean, how are you finding stuff now?
Yeah, we absolutely love the flea market. That's well, I do. I'm there more than Melissa, but yeah, that is where I started, was the flea market. Now there's so many apps out there, reselling apps, that you can find great deals. And then contacts that I've made throughout the last probably 4 or 5 years. When we started taking this as a full-time profession, I started making some good contacts, and the guys that I have actually email me stuff during the week, and then I can buy stuff from them. So there's all different places that you're able to find awesome things to flip. All right, so let's talk about the nitty-gritty. Okay, so you have these websites, OfferUp, Let Go, Facebook Marketplace, of course, eBay and Craigslist. Do you actually find good things to flip on those websites? Yes, we all the time. I mean, even if you only concentrated on one of those websites, you can find amazing stuff on any of those venues. The two that I use the most are OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace. But you just kind of have to think of it as people who don't want to give away the items a lot of times, or if an item is not, they don't use it anymore, or if it doesn't work. So I'll buy some stuff at an amazing deal if it needs something small, and then I'll try and figure out how to fix it myself. That's usually when you can find the best deals. But you also can just find amazing deals of people that are moving and have to get rid of stuff, kind of like moving sales, but now they do them online apps because you can list and sell stuff anytime. It doesn't have to be limited to a weekend. A couple months ago, I went and got a soft serve ice cream machine from a lady who purchased it. It was 3-phase instead of a single-phase unit, and she couldn't get it in. She couldn't get the electric to her ice cream shop, so she was giving the machine away. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So I went up there and I picked it up, and it is like a $20,000 machine. I'm sure she didn't pay that for it because she bought it secondhand, but I got it for free, and I have it listed. I haven't sold that one yet because that's a specialty one, but I have it listed for $10,000 right now, and I didn't pay anything for it. It was on OfferUp or Facebook. I don't remember. It was OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace, just for a free listing. That if you watch and you're on top of that stuff, you can get some awesome things for even free. So I read a story about the mattress. You went to go pick up a mattress, and then that turned into a whole nother side business. Tell us that story. Yeah, I found a Sleep Number mattress. It was on Craigslist. I've done Sleep Number mattresses before because you can break the mattress all the way down into, I think it's like 10 or 15 different pieces. It's got the blow up insert inside of it. It's got all the foam, and then just the covers, the top cover, the bottom cover. So, excuse me. I've done them in the past, and I found this one on Craigslist. So I went to look at it. It was at a hotel is where I found it. When I went to get there, when I went to the address, it was a hotel. The gentleman who was selling it took me into a room, and there were 10 of the mattresses, 10 of these Sleep Number mattresses in this hotel. So he told me pick whichever one I wanted. It was, I believe they were like $200. Usually they're $175 or $200. So I picked out the best one that I could, the least amount of stains on it. I knew that I could wash it, get it cleaned, get it sterilized, all that stuff before we sold it. I purchased that mattress. I was on my way home, and I ended up calling the guy back, asking him how much he would take if I took all the mattresses. And he said he had to go count and see how many he had. I figured he only had 10 because they were in this room. He had a whole storage full of these mattresses. It was 60 mattresses total. And he told me he would sell me all of them. And if I took all of them, king size mattresses, he would sell them all to me for $60 a piece. So $3,600 for all 60. And I ended up doing the deal. I split it up into a couple of different months. He said he was cycling them out of the hotel, and he couldn't get rid of all 60 at one time. But if I made a deal with him, I think it was every month and a half, I could come and pick up another 20 of them. And then he would cycle the hotel out. We ended up making, in the beginning, we sold them whole mattresses, anywhere from, it was $500 to $600. We sold those for $500 to $600 after we cleaned them. They looked great. And then we ended up parting them out for probably the second bunch that we did. And we were making closer to $1,000 or $1,100 by selling the parts versus selling them as a whole mattress. So altogether, we made over $25,000 on this deal with these mattresses that we bought.
Well, I'm sure that's phenomenal. And I'm sure like not every find has been such a success. Have you had any like major losers that taught you a lesson?
Yes, I have. One that I think about was last year. We bought a inflatable boat from one of my flea market contacts. This was brand new in the package. I think it weighed about 100 pounds. It was an inflatable dinghy that you pull out of a package. You blow it up. You put a little motor on the back of it for like in the ocean or for in the lakes, whatever. It was brand new, still in the package, never opened up. I bought it pretty much sight unseen. I didn't want to pull it out and do anything with it. I bought it. When I got it back to the house and pulled it out and take pictures of it, some of the seams in the inflatable boat, it's a rubber boat, had come unglued. And I was pretty much screwed. I just spent, I think I paid, do you remember what it was?
$180.
$180 is what I spent on it. Because I did the comps on it, so I checked it before I bought it. They were worth like retail on them was like over $2,500. So I was thinking this was going to be a home run. Then when I got into the house to take pictures, the seams were coming unglued, and I didn't know how to fix that. So I ended up having to sell it, and I broke even on that. I think I ended up selling it for $180 or $200, but I sold it as is to somebody who knew how to repair it. So, and that's happened a number of times where not everything is a home run. It just kind of tells you in the future, told me in the future, I need to take a little bit more time when I'm buying something. Instead of only doing the research of where the retail is, what the comps are for it, do a little bit more research on, just checking the item over to make sure it's in really good condition or it's in the condition that you're assuming it is before you actually buy it.
That's all great advice. Now, with everybody home because of the pandemic, has it changed your business? Have you had to pivot any?
Our business actually has grown during the pandemic because more people were at home shopping online. So we actually had higher sales during the whole quarantine. Even that first week, like exercise equipment was hot for sure. It still is. But like there's a lot of stuff. People were just shopping from home. And as far as sourcing, we already have a whole bunch of inventory, so we were listing it. But you were still going out, or he was still going out and finding stuff, but being safe about it, and just like on OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace because all the other places were closed.
Yeah, it did affect our sourcing at the flea markets. Yeah. Our flea markets, thrift stores, all that stuff closed down. But the cool thing about it is people were still trying to liquidate stuff that they had to create cash. So there were still deals out there that were on all the local apps. Then people were not scared to meet with you. You would meet up with them somewhere. You cut contact, you'd wash your hands and that kind of stuff. So we still were finding amazing deals. And I think it was the first 4 or 5 days after they quarantined or they put the order in that you were not supposed to do anything. We ended up making on sales like over $8,800, somewhere around there, between $8,000 and $9,000 in sales, which was amazing. It was a huge pickup because people were at home, looking on their phone on eBay, trying to find some cool stuff. It was just amazing. It was amazing that our business actually picked up during this time of crisis.
I don't know if it's popping up in your part of the country, but in Phoenix, it seems like every weekend they have these so-called estate sales where it really looks like they're staging a house to sell furniture or what have you. Do you find anything in those places?
Yeah, we don't do a lot of estate sales ourselves. There is an auction in Orlando that deals with all the remains of estate sales. The estate companies, they give it to this auction house and then they auction it off. And we found some amazing deals at that auction house. As for estate sales, we don't
do them that much, but I enjoy them when we do them because you can find some good stuff because the companies coming in, they don't have any attachment to the items. They're just trying to make their money. So you're not dealing with like an owner who's attached to an item. So the prices are typically pretty good. They're just trying to get rid of everything.
And especially on the last day when they have to get rid of that stuff in the estate, they will knock down the prices and you'll be able to either pick up stuff for free because they have to get rid of it if you're there the last hour of the sale, or they'll knock the prices, cut them in half, and you can even get better deals at estate sales.
Boy, that's a great tip right there. Rob and Melissa, thank you so much for giving us an inside look into the art of flipping, and congratulations on your success. Fascinating stuff, inspirational for everybody. And thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. We totally appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you and give some information to you. We definitely appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
So what do you think? Are you ready to start flipping for money? Go ahead and take the next step now. Learn more about how flipping's done. And what I really like is that you can get help along the way from Rob and Melissa. So I arranged for you to get $100 off their online university. But in order to get this special deal, you have to go to this address. Otherwise, you'll pay more. fleamarketflipper.com/Kim. That's fleamarketflipper.com/Kim. Hey, and when you are a success, drop me a note. I'd love to hear from you.
Hey, thank you so much for listening to Tech You Should Know with Kim Komando. I'm Mike James, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe so you get these downloaded to your device every week automatically. Tell your friends about us. We appreciate it. And again, we'll see you next time on Tech You Should Know with Kim Komando.